Hate it when that happens. I got a thumbs up. Need some tech, the poets need tech services.
Oh, God.
You've missed half the auto bio, but you haven't missed much. So fast forward 30 years later, I returned to college, and I was keenly aware that I needed to pursue poetry and writing. My partner Wolfgang likes to call it the best kind of midlife crisis. I went back to school, and last spring I graduated with my undergraduate degree in English and American Studies. And this May, as Adam told you, I will graduate with my master's degree in literary studies. And I've learned a tremendous amount about writing and the writing process. But what remains unique about my academic experience is that I finally recognize the value of the person and the poet that I've been all of these years, even without an education. We are not all afforded a pathway to higher education. So in a way, I return full circle and appreciate ways of knowing that spring from all sources of learning. And that extends to my professors, but also to my friends, Meghan, and my family, and my classmates. As a person who has clutched my own writing, unwilling to share it, even with my partner, I've also learned the value of communication with other artists and writers, people like my dear friend Meghan, JD, Kevin, Aldous Sissio. So with that said, in your gracious company, I am proud to read you a bit of my poetry. This first piece reflects aspects of childhood and parenting on the Gulf Coast of Florida. It is titled The Lessons of a Florida Mom. Remember, our car is parked on the side street near the crab shack with a palm thatched roof. Avoid talking to the riffraff and drunks. Cover yourself. It will save you from burns. Wear shoes. The beach should be empty. Stay clear of the storm rack. It stinks. Know the tides. Don't forget your belongings. The flood current is a thief. If you hope to find conch, you must wade in the swash and sift through the silky white quartz with your toes. But don't lift your feet. Shuffle them along. The barbs of the stingray are cruel. Do not swim in shadowed waters or in the strong break. Under the blue sky, there is another one, foaming and violent. Do not wear anything shiny. Remember, if you're in over your head, if you cannot see me or the structures on shore, grow faint or worse, disappear, jump and scream. The next piece was written early last year. I had a young cousin who passed away. It is titled Of All the Heather, with a dedication to Shanna. I should probably write an ode to how beautiful you were, for I cannot remove the shape of your tiny profile from my heart, your bending eyelashes framed with ebony waves that crest around a perfect porcelain face, looking up at me like I was somebody that I wasn't. Your eyes violet, staring over apple cheeks, balled up in a smile. Mom and I would weigh your beauty against the summer storms sweeping across the Gulf, lighting the night lavender. I would go on to tell the world of this girl with the lilac eyes, and the world agreed with me. Yet, even perfectly made, shattered little amethyst, I listened to your last message and watched the drops cling to the window pane. After a flash of purple, and then gray, and then nothing, and I think of all the Heather I wasn't. As you probably know, the architecture varies dramatically between New England colonial style and the stucco ranch homes of Florida. This poem is a moment. Oh, you read some of this. They're very short. This poem is a moment of reaching out to a sibling, my brother Shane, to ask if they remember one of those times, and you're trying to confirm that. The poem also acknowledges the setting described in geographic distance, but also the emotional distance from the speaker. And the poem is called A Message to My Brother Shane. Remember our old house near the marina, the one with the barren flagpole and the windows like gills? Who lives there now? Do they sit on the counters, drumming the hollow belly with their heels, never finding food or anyone at home, staring back at it, luminescent through the palms from a far seawall? Do they listen for sirens? Maybe all that water rose up and it returned to the Gulf, clay tile scales, aloe fens, the pole a lure, and my earring still trapped between the vanity and the floor, the other one here. Regionality continues to be a component of my work. I've heard the phrase that you're never more Southern than when you leave the South. This always seems to apply to me. I've spent the first 30 years between the Tampa Bay region of Florida and the town of Athens, Georgia. My mom even had a bumper sticker with the image of Georgia and Florida that read semi-native. The Southern setting, Southern slang, and dual regionality of claiming the identity that is both Northern and Southern continues to appear in my academic studies and in my poetry. Shane, I think you appear in this poem too. This is called Crawl Spaces. What is poverty when your whole world is a trailer in an empty Georgia field? Is it the brittle skeleton crouched doorless on the corner, peering out from under the wisteria? Or the angry shirtless man whose door swings cockeyed on a single rusty hinge? His bottom step is broken and he can't even reach the ground. I heard he shot his mom, but at noon, when it's dead silent and everyone's working, I can hear him scream. Instead of school, I move through crawl spaces, looking for that stray dog and her puppies, making a pact with my brother not to tell a soul. Maybe poverty is more like the sound of a hollow beer can, no curtains, just an echo and the movement under your feet. Of course, what would the South be without its reputation for food and Southern manners? This poem reflects the continuation of those cultural traits. This is called Cornbread. A script from my mom, crumpled, grease-stained with a folded torn edge, a doctrine of measuring cups and pans clattering from the cupboard chaotic. As the fork echoes on glass and the whisk suggests to the bowl, everything spills over the lip. But remember, sieved flour and salt tenderly indent with a pressed finger and become coarse when meal is added. Fold gently. The beaten egg binds, the taste, foretaste, sour the milk. Combine all things, scrape. The cast iron pan screeches across the oven rack. Add batter, bake. It's a chemical process, precise amounts, in perfect order, or you invent something entirely different. These next group of poems also dwell in the South, but they have a transatlantic partnership with, inspired by Tang Dynasty poet Tufu. As you may know, Tufu lived 712 to 770 and is considered by many the greatest among Chinese poets. Tufu's form and style is complex and condensed, typically in couplets of 4 and 5 stanzas, giving it a deceivingly simple appearance. I was introduced to Tufu in J.D. Scrimger's poetry workshop, where along with our peers, including international students from China, we compared and discussed the translations of Sam Hamill and David Hinton. These few poems are motivated by the succinct nature of Tufu's poetry. This is called Pulled Pork. The children forget as their mouths devour history pulled from the bone. Women's hands glisten in its greasy fat, and with mint country knuckles they pick and cackle like birds above a carcass, the slow, dirty work of separating. African roots are deep in Georgia. How do you return a recipe to its owner? This short piece is called Tropicana. Similar theme. See how the Florida theme runs through this too. The bloated gallon of orange juice sweats in the sink and reminds me of home. The distorted shape wobbles. Imagine tropical sunlight trapped, bursting the plastic seams. I recall the slow thaw and the empty fridge, like waiting for payday. The sweet, sticky concentrate pooling with the branch while the branches were clustered with fruit. This next work represents the general and cultural differences between the North and South and the slow reluctance to recognize racism and make the needed changes. Again, in form, it reflects the dense structure of Tufu's poetry. It has one bad word. Uncle Remus in Boston. Something broke in Uncle Remus as she spat and then slammed the door. She was laughing. Racism? Oh, every single fucking day. But I'm still stuck in 4th grade in my shoebox kitchen with a thread spool table, a gingham tablecloth, and matching curtains. You didn't make that, the kids would say, but I have, and I did. I was sawing at a door with a knife while my teacher was reading Brer Rabbit. As you can imagine, working inside of a salon offers an abundance of material. In truth, I've just begun to explore these ideas, the roles of women, the wonderful personalities, standards of beauty, the power differential in the service care industry. This poem evokes the latter. It is called Personal Care. I clean your feet with no space between your soft arches and my rented grip. I labor in debridement, the remnants on the floor of being human, down here where I know your dirty soul's whereabouts, your crooked gait, fallen arches, your warts, your feet are too big, toes misaligned, nails malformed. You speak of profits and losses, degrees of risk chosen, and then you nod toward the red polish, phone to your ear. Sometimes you appear grateful, and sometimes you tip extra, hoping for forgiveness. The next few poems were written in the poetry workshop at Salem State. This piece is a glance at neighborly relations in our current political climate. It also has a little bit of play with Frost's mending wall. It's called Virginia Creeper. Our rock wall is overrun with barb-like tentacles launched like feelers. Vines have broken the mortar and the glossy myrtle has vanished. What was just yesterday purple star flowers is now a grave of unmended stone. The late day sun reddens my face and I burn. Violently I pull, damn this invasion. Then arrives my neighbor. Can I put my campaign sign here? Have you heard? They teach race theory in our schools. And I rip and I pull at the roots. But you don't have children here. Rolling the razor-like species as I go. It's impossible to unravel and my arms are dripping in blood. This may be a familiar nighttime scene. This is called Is This Silence? The binge breaking moment when you turn on the TV and negotiate a sudden dark reality. You follow vitreous specks across the fixed shadows. What is this strange place? Is this silence or just the ear-ringing absence hovering amid the high waves of aircraft and low draft of the street? And you think, but don't want to, of everything that's wrong in dread and instinct, the sixth sense. A sixth sense of your mother's frail body and the chemo dripping into your dad, and you visualize each child and count them 1, 2 upstairs, 3 in bed. Oh, blessed is ignorant sleep, what disquiet the television hum hides before it goes blank, when surreal fear awakens and even the cooling plastic cracks in retreat. The next few pieces are quite new. I told Kevin I was trying a few new things tonight. They follow similar concentrated form of tufu, but there's some odd perspectives and some new shifts. And then the first piece has the title as the opening line. It begins. There are avenues of survival, and there are protocols for failure, processes to adhere to, GEDs, restraining orders, foreclosures, bankruptcies, and divorce. A guidance counselor in 10th grade, opening a file, sanctioning beauty school, no letters of recommendation. The gynecologist notes, pleasant disposition. The pediatrician doesn't baby talk with the children. But a stranger, the woman's advocate, Tara, stands posture perfect, arms akin, at first in total silence, and then suddenly projects upon the court so supremely, her voice becomes an open window, a squall. In an empty beige church without Bibles, the chandeliers flicker and the papers fly. This work is called Elvis and Cobain. We had a whole Elvis conversation. Rock and roll ushered in the decline of society. Is that why Kurt Cobain's death was so violent? Why kids huddle sheltered with backpacks over their heads, straddling toilets? Is that how those good church ladies felt about Elvis's hips while picketing integration and burning effigies as an offering, planting myrtle, cherry bombs, and rifle shells? This last work, Meghan was motivated by our conversation the other day, and Meghan was discussing embodiment, and we were talking about how we view the body. So this is called flesh dress modeling. She never plucks her eyebrows and never leaves the house without a solid mask, but they pluck her eyebrows, leave her hair a mess, dress her in spandex, strange shoes, and a blank face. You have a tiny mouth, but it's perfect. Your best feature, your ass. We're not sure about your freckles, cut your hair. Do you think we should put her in this bed or up against this wall? So to conclude my reading, thought I would lighten it up a bit. Thank you for the generous invitation to read here tonight. My last poem is a little bit more fun. It is called Evaporating. I will drink a bit of water because it is full of alliteration. Under pressure, frozen puddles shatter, mere gas bubbles with a hollow underworld, splintering into irregular edges and shards, jump, stomp, crunch, an audible destruction of the fragile crust. A brittle broom might lightly sweep up, clinking and tinkling into the trash bin, or an Arctic gust might scatter and spin, topple, blend, mix, shift, shape, and upset the puzzle, now disassembled, blown about in the grass. When the clouds part on the playground and the spring sun softens the earth, the sod becomes sponge, and the melt mixed mud clings to tough little shoes. Hopscotch, tag, duck, duck, goose, pressing wet prints on the pavement. By night, evaporating. Who promised you anything more? Red